ठीक है, सो पर्सनल फाइनेंस सेशन शुरू करते हैं. सो बेसिकली लॉट ऑफ अस आर अर्निंग अभी एंड लॉट ऑफ एंड फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल मेरा आवाज़ क्लियर है ना टू एवरीवन, मतलब कोई इशू नहीं है, कोई बैकग्राउंड नॉइज नहीं, राइट?
नहीं नहीं नहीं, सब क्लियर है.
ठीक है, सो पर्सनल फाइनेंस काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट है एंड सिंस मोस्ट ऑफ अस आर गोइंग टू स्टार्ट अर्निंग, सो इट ऑल द मोर बिकम्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस. सो बिफोर वी स्टार्ट ऑफ द सेशन देयर आर सर्टेन डिस्क्लेमर्स जो पहले दे देता हूँ. So first of all, me and Sugam have tried our best to research about the topic and we have framed our own opinions on it. And हम लोग के opinions काफ़ी गलत हो सकते हैं, हम लोग के assumptions गलत हो सकते हैं. Maybe our recommendations can cause you to lose money and our opinions can change with time. But at this particular point of time, these are the things that we believe in. So basis on what we know right now, we have designed this particular session. I hope this is something which is very clear to everyone. So before we start off, let us start off with the basic concepts of personal finance. So अगर हम लोग concepts का बात करते हैं, so first of all, you're going to generate certain income. So for most of us, it's going to be salary. For a lot of us, it can be profits from our businesses or whatever. So this is something that I do. So मैं जितना income generate करता हूँ, for example, when I was working, then I used to receive my salary. So I used to get that salary in my one bank account. So first bank account में वो पूरा salary आ जाता था. For example, let us say I used to get 50,000 per month, and then वो salary पूरा मेरा bank account में आ जाता था. So उसके बाद I used to transfer a certain portion to investments, and those investments used to generate return for me and increase my income. एंड जो मेरे खर्चे थे वो मैं दूसरे बैंक अकाउंट में ट्रांसफर कर लेता था एंड देन उनके थ्रू मैं अपने एक्सपेंसेस मीट करता था एंड सिमिलरली देयर a lot of us going to bear EMI as well, and EMI is something which regularly depletes your income. So for example, if I am earning 50,000 and my EMI is 10,000 and I am generating 5,000 from investments, so net में आप बोल सकते हो कि my disposable income at the end of the month is 45,000. So this is what I used to do, and now there's a reason why I used to have two bank accounts, which I will explain later. So there are general rules that I would want everyone to follow अगर वो कर पाए. So first is that we should always save first according to our goals and expense out the rest. So basically for example आपका एक certain goal है, उसके basis पर figure out करते हो कि आपको monthly इतना सेव करना है. And also I don't I hope कोई ऐसा नहीं है जिसको हिंदी से issue है. So if there is someone like that, they can also tell me, so I'll switch to English. हाँ, so ideally अपने को पहले, for example, if I am generating X amount, then ideally my first go-to strategy should be that I should save X, and उसके बाद जो balance है that I should treat for my expenses. Secondly, it is very important for us to save the maximum during the early years, since the assets will be able to generate the most returns at that particular point of time. So you can think of it as आप कितना जल्दी एक seed डालना चाहते हो for a tree. So the earlier you do it, the earlier you will get the fruit. So you can think of it in that way. For example, if we are 20 and we save 20,000 per month till 65 years, we are going to get 3.25 crores at the end of when we turn 65. Similarly, if we start saving from 30 till we turn 65, we'll get 1 crore. So you can see the stark difference. Just the difference is just 10 years between 20 and 30, but the future value is the difference between the future value is around 3 times. So you understand that the objective of me telling you all this is that we should maximize our savings early on, because that savings is going to generate a lot of return on itself, and that is why it will compound to become much more compared to you saving X amount 10 years down the line. So because it is important to save maximum early, it is suggested that you do not take loans early on in your life. Loans for maybe car or home, these are some things that you can avoid. So this is something that you can avoid. And similarly, you can rent the depreciating assets rather than owning them. For example, car is a depreciating asset. So rather than owning a car, you can rent it early on so that you can save the excess amount. And a thumb rule is that you do not invest in assets which generate a total return less than 5%. So less than 5% savings account generate karte hain, FDs generate karte hain. So usually it's not recommended to say invest in such assets because the inflation is going to be more than your returns. Similarly, one more recommendation would be that we should use credit cards a lot. Uh, Given the fact that you have the ability to discipline yourself, if you don't, then you don't use credit cards, because a credit cards, for example, uni has a credit card which gives you 3 months of credit. So basically it's just free interest for 3 months. So you can use credit card, and but just do it when you are able to discipline yourself. Now, answering the question that why do I have two bank accounts. So first, it helps me during my taxation. So मेरा एक बैंक अकाउंट में पूरा सैलरी आता है, एक जगह इन्वेस्टमेंट, एक जगह एक्सपेंसेस, so it makes my taxation का process very easier. Also, I get two credit cards, so that gives me more access to different perks and different offers that are available. And basically, having two bank account is a very healthy financial practice. So these were the basic concepts. So I think before the session starts, everyone should know. So just to recap, आपका इनकम आता है, आप वो इनकम को सेव करते हो इन्वेस्टमेंट्स में, दोज इन्वेस्टमेंट्स जनरेट रिटर्न फॉर यू एंड दे इंक्रीज योर इनकम. सिमिलरली द लोन्स दैट यू टेक रिजल्ट इन ईएमआईज यूजुअली, एंड जो ईएमआईज होते हैं दैट डिप्लीट योर इनकम. Also, you should save maximum during the early part of your life so that you can compound more on those things, and hence you should avoid taking loans during when you just start off with your career. So now, answering the first question, which is what are your financial goals? So basically, there's a framework that we used, and this is a framework that we studied during CFA as well. The framework is known as RRTTLU. So the first part is risk. So you need to answer two questions, which is how much risk. You need to answer a question which is how much risk you are comfortable with. So the more comfortable you are with taking risk, the higher you can invest in high return generating assets. Next is your return expectations. So you need to understand what are your return requirements. And usually the higher the return requirements you have, the higher the equity percentage you invest in. Next is your taxation needs. So for example, we need to make certain investments in order to optimize our taxation. So we need to figure out that trade-off between lower taxes and lower returns and take decisions. Next is your time horizon. So this is a very important question because you need to understand that आपका जो भी investment आप कर रहे हो उसका time horizon क्या है? Is it for retirement? Is it immediately that is going to be used during 1 year for a vacation, for example, or is it for your child's education? Usually, higher the time horizon, higher the percentage you can invest in riskier assets. Next is your liquidity needs. So we need to understand what our liquidity needs are. For example, if you need cash anytime soon, maybe in the coming year or maybe in the coming 3 years, then ideally you cannot invest in an asset class such as real estate, क्योंकि आप अगर कोई real estate property खरीदते हो तो उसको बेचना is not that easy. So you need to understand your liquidity needs and accordingly invest. Next is if there are any legal requirements. Usually, people who are working in the investment banking industry have a lot of legal requirements that they have to meet for, and they ideally cannot invest in a lot of companies, and उनको बहुत disclosures भी करने पड़ते हैं. And lastly is your unique circumstances. For example, you don't want to invest in a company जो alcohol बनाता है, या you don't want to invest in a company जो cigarettes बनाता है. So if there is any circumstances that are unique to you, then you can invest accordingly. Okay. So basically, just to sum up again, so the entire point of this framework is that before we start investing, we need to understand our financial goals, and for doing that, we need to understand ourselves. So ideally, if you can answer questions in these 6 regards, you can get a very good clarity in terms of what your financial needs are, and what is your risk-taking capacity. Who are you as a person, and what is your financial requirements. Now I'll explain the different type of goals and their investment implications. So इससे पहले तो kind of काफी hazy सा चीज था, and it was just frameworks and rule of thumbs. But now it's going to be थोड़ा सा मतलब mathematical and थोड़ा सा technical. So if you have any questions, आप type कर सकते हो, I'll answer them. So ideally, for me, there are 5 type of goals. So this is something which I believe in. The first goal is your retirement goal, which goes like I want to save X amount by the time I retire for my life. For me, it will be that by the time I turn 63, I need to save a total of 40 crores. So this is my goal. So for retirement goals, ideally you can invest 100% in index equity and other asset classes with a higher risk return profile, and also in illiquid asset classes. Next is your long-term goals. For example, that you want to buy a house. So such investments can be made with a 80-20 ratio of equity to debt, and also in different alternate investment classes which are liquid. Then is your medium-term goals such as marriage, then your short-term goals, and then immediate goals. So if you see, basically, as you travel from retirement goal to immediate goals, आपका equity percentage decrease होता है and आपका debt percentage बढ़ता है. So the point of this is कि equity is a very volatile asset class in general. So that is why you invest in it when you have a very long-term horizon. As your horizon decreases, you invest in a more stable asset class such as debt. So to ensure that आपका principal deplete नहीं करता है. Because in equity, it is very much probable that during the first year of investment, you're losing money rather than making it. But it is an expectation that over 10-20 years, you'll make more money. So that is the whole point. Ki what is your goal, and your goals and the time horizon have a different investment implication. So now that we know that what are our financial goals and how we can figure out ourselves, the next step is to understand that how much do we have to save to meet our financial goals. So I'll do it with an example. Let us assume that I want to retire by 63 years of age and I want X amount. So how can we figure out that what is the X amount? So a very good way of answering it is कि आज अगर आपको रिटायर करना होगा तो आज आपको कितने पैसे चाहिए रिटायरमेंट के लिए. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, let us assume that if I ask you to retire today and if I pay you 1 crore, you'll be more than happy to retire. Now the next step is to calculate the future value of this 1 crore at your retirement age. So we can assume a 6% inflation rate, which is a very conservative estimate, and the future value turns out to be 10 crores. So basically, you need 10 crores to retire at the age of 63. Next, what we need to do is that we need to figure out that assuming a conservative return, for example, 10%, how much do you have to save on an annual basis? So if you do the calculation, you'll figure out that you need to save around 2.5 lakhs per year for 40 years to get 10 crores at the age of 63. So this is an example कि अगर आपका एक retirement goal है तो what should be your process of figuring out कि how much you have to save. So similarly for all your different goals, there are going to be different X amounts. So your annual savings should ideally be the summation of all X, and your investment should be made according to the type of goals as I showed earlier. Now there are general observation and tips that you can consider. Whenever you're making such calculations, it's always recommended to be very conservative. Assume a very high inflation rate, assume low returns. These are the suggested assumptions. And your savings are very much impacted by the return you generate. For example, अगर 1% interest rate भी I change, तो काफी ज्यादा impact होता है उसका. And hence it is very much recommended that you don't buy regular mutual funds. So mutual funds दो type के होते हैं, एक होते हैं normal और एक होते हैं regular और एक होता है, I'm forgetting the term, एक होते हैं direct. हाँ. So basically regular mutual funds में क्या होता है, जो agent आपको mutual fund दिलाता है, they usually charge 1% commission. And जो direct mutual fund होता है, उसमें वो 1% charge नहीं लगता है. So because 1% is a very big number when you compound it over 40 years, hence it is always recommended that you don't buy regular mutual funds, you always go for direct mutual funds. And just figure out how to use a financial calculator. ये एक calculator है, so you can, I'll share the deck so you can go and check this out. It's very simple to use, but ideally this is something that everyone should know. And I'll be giving you a resource pack as well. So there is one video of Ankur Wariko on how much to save, so you can check that out as well. So just to sum up till now, what we have done is two things. One, we have figured out that what are our financial goals. Second, we have figured out that in order to meet our financial goals, how much do we have to save. Now, the third part that I'm going to discuss is that where should we invest our savings? Now, before I move ahead, is there any questions or is there anything that you want me to revisit before we go ahead? अगर कोई questions है कुछ भी है तो just unmute and speak. I'll wait for 1 minute for the question.
योगेश
Cool. So moving ahead.
Yogesh, Ayan was saying something. Yogesh.
Sorry, I dropped off. हाँ यान बोलो.
या नहीं कुछ नहीं, मैं बस ये बोल रहा ये जो डेक शेयर कर दोगे ना.
हाँ ये डेक शेयर कर दूंगा. ठीक है. So the next question that we should answer is that where should we invest our savings? So ideally, this is kind of a cheat sheet type of a चीज जो मैंने बनाया है कि अकॉर्डिंग डिफरेंट एसेट क्लासेस में क्या क्या इन्वेस्टमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटीज अवेलेबल होते हैं एंड the riskiness increases as you move down. So I'll just एक करके I'll go through the entire list and explain जो भी मेरा opinion है इसके ऊपर. So the most safest asset class is bank का fixed deposit. Next is the debt asset class. Debt asset class में mutual funds होते हैं. Mutual funds काफी type के होते हैं. Liquid, overnight, short term, medium, corporate, credit risk, PSU, gilt. And then you have ETFs which are listed on the exchange. नेक्स्ट यू हैव द इक्विटी एसेट क्लास. इक्विटी एसेट क्लासेस में आप नेकेड स्टॉक में इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हो, आप म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हो, आप ईटीएफ्स में इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हो और आप इंटरनेशनल इंडेक्सेस में इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हो. एंड हर चीज का एक सब पार्ट भी है छोटे छोटे. द लास्ट कैटेगरी एंड द मोस्ट रिस्की कैटेगरी ऑफ ऑल इज द ऑल्टरनेट इन्वेस्टमेंट क्लास, जिसमें कमोडिटी होता है, फिजिकल गोल्ड, ETFs, रियल एस्टेट होता है, क्रिप्टो, बिजनेस इन्वेस्टमेंट, पर्सनल लोन्स एंड इंश्योरेंस प्रोडक्ट्स. सो मोटा मोटी द एसेट क्लासेस आर रिस्कियर, बट मतलब जरूरी नहीं है कि हर चीज रिस्की हो. फॉर एग्जांपल इफ यू टॉक अबाउट गोल्ड, देन गोल्ड इज यूजुअली कंसिडर्ड टू बी अ वेरी सेफ इन्वेस्टमेंट कंपेयर्ड टू इक्विटी, बट ऑल्टरनेट इन्वेस्टमेंट एज अ क्लास इज मच मोर रिस्की. सो मतलब द पॉइंट इज कि दिस इज जस्ट टू शो यू कि अलग अलग एसेट क्लासेस में क्या क्या इन्वेस्टमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटीज अवेलेबल है फॉर investors like us to invest in. So now I'll tell you what I do for my own investment, and I'm going to talk about my retirement fund. So basically I've built a retirement fund for myself right now, and my retirement fund ka simple fund hai. It is basically that 90% of whatever I am going to save is going to go in the index funds and 10% is going to go in gold. So, and apart from that, these are the rules that I'll follow. So I'm not going to make any fixed deposits. Within that, अगर मेरे को invest कभी करना पड़े, तो according to my goals, these are the different products that I am going to invest in. So debt market का usually rule of thumb ये होता है कि average maturity जो होता है debt fund का, that should equal to your minimum time horizon. For example, if I want to invest in 5 years, then I will look for a debt fund जिसके अंदर वैसे securities है जिसका maturity time 5 years है, and I only invest in AAA rated funds. Within equity, I am not going to invest in any active mutual funds or any large cap mutual funds. So a very big reason for doing that is, and the reason I'm very much inclined towards index funds is that there's a report by SPIVA which covers 5 years का data, and they have shown कि around 82% of large cap mutual funds and majority of small cap and mid cap mutual funds have actually underperformed the S&P index, which is the benchmark, which is just a benchmark, which is the market in its way. So if a mutual fund is not able to beat the market, then why do I invest in mutual fund? So going by that kind of a thinking, my point is that instead of investing in mutual fund, आप direct index funds खरीद के invest कर लो. So I invest in Sensex का index fund and Nifty का index fund. So usually if I am saving 10 rupees, then 4.5 रुपए मैं सेंसेक्स इंडेक्स फंड में डाल दूंगा, 4.5 रुपए में निफ्टी इंडेक्स फंड में डाल दूंगा और 1 रुपए गोल्ड में डाल दूंगा. And also invest in tax saver funds to get the tax benefit, which I'll cover ahead in the session. Also, within the alternate investment class, I and my family have a huge inclination towards physical real estate. However, we can invest in physical real estate only after we attain a certain net worth. अगर आपका अभी नेटवर्थ है ही नहीं, या फॉर एग्जांपल 1-2 करोड़ का है, सो इट वुडंट मेक अ लॉट ऑफ सेंस फॉर यू टू इन्वेस्ट इन अ रियल एस्टेट प्रॉपर्टी विच इज वर्थ 5 या 10 करोड़. So it makes to invest in physical real estate after you have attained a certain net worth. So in order to attain that net worth, you'll have to invest in equity and debt. And also insurance policy कुछ तरीके के होते हैं which are also investment product kind of a thing. So वो भी मैं explain करूँगा, and they are also very good investment tools. So आज का session में the last thing that I am going to cover is that how can we optimize our taxation. So this is going to be for all of us. So टैक्स ऑप्टिमाइज करने का सबसे सही फंडा होता है कि डिडक्शंस को यूज करना चाहिए अपने को. So what are the different deductions? I'll just tell you. So आप 1.5 लाख का साल का इंडक्शन 1.5 लाख का साल का डिडक्शन ले सकते हो पीएफ, ईएलएसएस एंड यूनिट लिंक्ड इंश्योरेंस के थ्रू. सो आपका कंपनी विल बी इन्वेस्टिंग सर्टेन अमाउंट इन पीएफ, वो 1.5 लाख का पार्ट हो जाएगा, एंड जो बैलेंस बचता है आप उसको ईएलएसएस या यूनिट लिंक्ड इंश्योरेंस में डाल सकते हो एंड आपको उसका डिडक्शन मिल जाएगा. 50,000 एक्स्ट्रा डिडक्शन आप ले सकते हो एनपीएस का. उसके बाद इफ यू हैव एन एजुकेशन लोन, देन उसका इंटरेस्ट इज डिडक्टेबल. आपका एचआरए डिडक्टेबल होता है, 50,000 का स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन मिलता है. इंटरेस्ट ऑन योर सेविंग्स अकाउंट up to 10,000 is also deductible, but to be very honest, सेविंग्स अकाउंट में अगर आप 10,000 इंटरेस्ट जनरेट कर रहे हो तो बहुत ही फक्ड अप है वो. नेक्स्ट इज योर मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस ऑफ योर सेल्फ एंड योर पेरेंट्स. तो दोनों मिला के काइंड ऑफ 50,000 तक आप डिडक्शंस ले सकते हो, एंड अगर आप कोई चैरिटी में इन्वेस्ट करते हो तो उसका भी डिडक्शंस मिल सकता है. सो मोटा मोटी बेसिस माई कैलकुलेशन, अगर आपका सैलरी 20 लाख के आसपास है तो ये सारे डिडक्शंस लेने के बाद आपके पास इन हैंड अराउंड 17 टैक्स वैक्स हटा के 17-18 आ जाना चाहिए. अगर आप सारे डिडक्शन ढंग से ले लोगे, मोटा मोटी 2 लाख का टैक्स पे करना पड़ेगा आपको. सो बेसिस ऑफ टैक्स देयर आर जस्ट 2 डिसीजंस दैट वी हैव टू टेक. वन इज द इन्वेस्टमेंट डिसीजन टू गेट 1.5 प्लस 50,000 का डिडक्शन, बस. सो दीज आर द 2 डिसीजंस जो आपको टैक्सेशन के बेसिस पे लेने. इसके अलावा कोई भी डिसीजन टैक्सेशन के बेसिस पे लेने का जरूरत नहीं है इन्वेस्टमेंट डिसीजन. सो जनरल सजेशंस ये है कि हाँ, सो बेसिकली दिस इज समथिंग दैट अ लॉट ऑफ आवर सीनियर्स आर आल्सो डूइंग. फॉर एग्जांपल जैसे मेरा एक सीनियर है, उसका घर कैलकाटा में ही है एंड उसका कंपनी उसको कैलकाटा में जॉब दिया है. So in order to get HRA deduction, वो क्या कर रहा है? He has basically made an agreement with his parents itself, showing that he is paying rent to his parents so that he can get HRA deduction. Similarly, एक और तरीका of getting reducing tax is a lot of charities have this scheme जहाँ पे आप जाके charities को पैसा दे सकते हो, and usually आप अगर 100 रुपए देते हो तो उन लोग आपको 80 रुपए वापस देते हैं, मतलब ब्लैक मनी के फॉर्म में, and 20 rupees they keep as a commission. But the point is ki this is not very prudent and this is not suggested to people of our age because of the reason ki we need to build our files. And आज अगर आप अपना टैक्स नहीं पे करोगे and आप अगर black money accumulate करोगे, so you will not have a file, because of which you will not be able to buy any major assets in the future without a lot of issues. And taxation should ideally be planned in the year at the beginning of the year. And if अगर आपके फैमिली में कोई सीए है या if your parents या आपका कोई बिजनेस है जिसमें कोई सीए काम करते हैं, so you can just have a candid conversation with him or her. And there are a lot of tax calculators available जो आपको बता देते कि old regime लेना या new regime, but for most of us old regime is going to be the way forward. And अगर आपके पास कोई सीए नहीं है तो ऋषि नाम का मेरा दोस्त है, so you can set up an appointment and talk to him if you need any help. So the insurance part we are going to cover tomorrow. तो आज के लिए तो यही था मेरे पास. So if there are any questions that I can answer, तो right, so like we discussed yesterday, we covered the 4 points as shown on the screen, and today we are going to discuss insurance. So we'll start off with life insurance. So first question is that how much coverage should you take? So ideally, आपका annual salary का 4 to 5 times, 25 times is a very good coverage. So for most of us, it's going to be between 4 to 5 crores. Next is which insurance product should we buy? So this is a very opinionated kind of a thing. So according to me and based on my research and my opinion, I believe that all of us should opt for term insurance till the age of 63. So the reason being, in a whole life insurance, whatever you invest, you can easily beat the returns of the insurance firm by investing the money ourselves. Also, 63 is usually considered to be the retirement age, and us time tak we also build a huge corpus which can help us live out our retirement period. And within the term insurance, there are certain plans in which the premiums are returned. So there is a plan by Tata AIA in which the premiums are invested in a fund of your choice, and you get back the premiums depending on the market return. So I'll show it to you on Policy Bazaar as well. So to sum up, a term insurance till the coverage of 63, which gives you back your premium. So which are the add-ons that you should incorporate for life insurance? So there are critical illness and disability add-ons. So during the critical illness add-on, basically they have a list of 40 critical illnesses or more. And if you develop such illness, then you get immediate payout, plus you don't have to pay the premium. But these are two different add-ons, the payout and the premium stop. It's better that we take both of these add-ons. Similarly for disability. And during buying insurance, a good rule of thumb is that the claim ratio should be greater than 98% and it should be from a very reputed brand. And during the process of buying insurance, we should disclose everything and we should buy our insurance policies as early as possible. And also, we should select a plan in which we pay the premium as early as possible. So I'll explain it. Why I'll explain to you why when we go to Policy Bazaar. And where can you buy your insurance from? So you can either buy it from Policy Bazaar or buy an agent. So a friend of ours, Apurva's dad, usually deals with insurance. So I've listed his number, so you can call him up and he can help you with the same. So the whole point of having an agent is that they usually pester you to pay up timely, and they settle the claims and they do all the paperwork, which is a lot when you buy insurance. So now I'll just show you guys. Just is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay. तो जस्ट अ हेड्स अप, आप पॉलिसी बाजार में कभी भी अपना अकाउंट बनाओगे तो दे आर गोइंग टू कॉल यू डे इन डे आउट. सो वो प्रिपेयर्ड होकर अकाउंट बनाना. So basically, let us select our life cover. Our life cover, let's say, is 5 crores. For my age is 23, so I want a coverage till 63. Let us sort by claim settlement. I want to pay a monthly premium and I want a plan that returns my premium. So here are the different plans that are available. We can also look at the payout option. Okay. So these are the different plans which meet all my criteria. So there is one plan if you go here. So these are the two plans which I was talking about. So in this plan, if you're paying 1,12,000 per year, you're going to get back a corpus of around 1.19 crores, assuming a 8% market return. And there are different payouts like we discussed earlier, and we can also include these payouts. Now I'll show you why did I say that we should aim to pay the premiums as early as possible. So let us say I don't want to pay for 40 years, I want to pay for 10 years. Yes. So if I pay 2,25,000 annually for 10 years, which is around 20, which is basically around 22 lakhs in principal, then I'll get the same plan which I'll get if I pay 1 lakh for 40 years, which is around 40 lakhs in terms of principal. So it makes a lot of sense for us to, pay early on. So this is one plan which I found very interesting. The reason being it's a term insurance plus it invests your money. And if you are not interested in such a plan in which they invest your money, there are a lot of other plans available for the same coverage for a much lower price. So it is available for around 86,000, 60,000. So there are different plans that you can check out and buy insurance. Ideally, for people who are working, they should aim to buy the insurance this year itself. So this was about life insurance. Now Shugam will discuss health insurance.
Yeah, Yogesh, can you just share the screen, please? The slides. So yeah, I'll try to keep it as short as possible. So first we'll go, why do we need a separate health insurance plan? First of all, most of us are going to be working in corporate, so we would have a corporate plan that a company would give us. But that corporate cover is terminated as soon as you leave the organization. So whenever you'll be joining to a new organization, you would have to take care of some waiting period for the existing illnesses to kick in under that insurance, and that can vary from 3 years to 4 years. So it's a wise decision to have your own separate health insurance plan, so that you do not fall victim to that unknown uncertainty in that period. And on top of that, there are some corporate plans which have the option of copay, wherein the corporate plan would pay somewhere around 90% of the total expense, and you would have to shell out the remaining 10%, which of course is a burden. And finally, you can claim two plans together. For example, let's say your corporate plan has a cover of 5 lakhs, and the total amount, your total expense turned out to be around 6 lakhs. In that case, you can just take that 5 lakh cashless from your corporate plan, and the remaining 1 lakh you can pay from your own pocket and claim it later on with your insurer. Now, when should you purchase this policy? Actually, it's advisable to purchase it as soon as possible, because as in when you age, the premium that you have to forego is higher, and it increases considerably. And on top of that, there are lower hospitalization rates initially in your years because you're healthier. So it would lead you to claim no claim bonus, which usually is in the form of discount on your premium or in the form of added cover. This can be varying from policy to policy. Now, once you're done with, you have taken a decision that you're going ahead and buying a health insurance. What are the factors that you need to look out for? First of all, there is room rent capping. Normally, in all the policies, if it's not mentioned explicitly that there is no capping on the room rent, it's usually about 1 to 2% of the policy amount. For example, if you have 5 lakhs as your total insured amount, your room rent per day would be around 5,000. But if you see in hospitals, this is a very minuscule amount. Your room rent can go up to 20,000, 30,000, depending on the hospital. So usually go for a policy where there is no room rent capping. And the next important thing is that you have to look at the hospital network. If you live in a city where the insurer has very less number of hospitals covered, this would not be a favorable thing for you. You would have to go to hospitals which are only in the network, otherwise it wouldn't be covered. So please have a look at that before selecting that policy. Then the hospitalization expenses, which include the pre-hospitalization and post-hospitalization, which means that if you start taking a treatment for your ailment, you might not be hospitalized immediately, or there might be a period where you might have to take this treatment even after you get out of the hospital. So those two expenses should be covered. And critical illnesses like cancer or any other major ailment, if that happens to you, that should be covered under your policy. And as a general thumb of rule, any policy which has 95% greater than 95% claim ratio, and it is coming from a trusted brand, you can go ahead with it. Apart from taking considering all the other factors. Uh, while we have taken care of the major factors involved, what other options that you can look out for in your policy? I mean, these are bonuses, but even if you don't have them, it's okay, you can let them go. First is free medical checkups. There are some policies which give you the option of yearly or bi-yearly free medical checkups. So all that expense would be covered under your policy and it would be free. Then there is the option of lifetime renewal, because if your policy terminates at like 60 or 65 and then you think of getting a new policy, the premium that you would have to pay at that point of time would be way too huge. So if there's an option for lifetime renewal, please go ahead with it. Maternity benefits, it depends on you, it depends on your situation, and if you're planning a family, this might be beneficial for you. No claim bonus is usually included in all of them, but you have to see what kind of bonus are they giving you. Usually there's a cap on the amount of bonus they can give you. For example, they would say that for the first 3 years, they can increase the cover amount by 30%, and the total cap would be around at 100 and 150%. And what happens if you claim something, it would reduce by X percentage. So please consider that. It should be favorable according to you. And pre-existing diseases coverage is important. What you have to look here is the waiting period. It can vary from 1 to 4 years. As it's evident, you should select the one which has the lowest waiting period. Okay. Now, once we're done with this, what is the considered amount to go for it? If you have a family, so it states that a general thumb of rule is that you can go ahead with 2.5 lakhs per adult and 1 lakh per child. So you can calculate your required cover amount with this thumb rule. And whom all should be covered in this plan? So ideally, you should have a plan for yourself, your spouse, and your children. Please do not include your parents in your policy. Have a separate policy for them, because once you start taking a policy, the premium amount is calculated on the base of the eldest member in the family. And if it's your parents that are in your family, you would have to shell out a very huge premium for it. It's advisable, therefore, to get 2 separate policies for them. And lastly, there are some other things you can consider. As you would have a corporate plan, there are some plans that offer you the option of prolonging that insurance. Even if you have left the organization, you would have to just pay the premium and that cover would still be eligible. So please read your company's health insurance policy, and if they have that option, you can go ahead with it. Now I can just show you one of the few plans that I'm considering for myself. Yogesh, I do not have the option to share my screen. Can you just give me that?
Just a moment. You try it out now. I think you should be able to.
No, it's still not there. Yeah, okay. Just give me a moment. Is my screen visible?
Yep.
Okay. So over here, I had a few filters. There's this 1 crore cover, which is not exactly 1 crore. It's usually around 10 lakhs, but you can have this in recurring, instances within a year. So that is something that I required, and I sorted it according to the highest claim settlement ratio, no room rent limit that I told earlier. And yeah, based on that, there would be around numerous options. So I've selected 3 of them just to compare them. Over here, they would give you the data regarding this. So restoration of cover is important because hospitalization can happen multiple times a year. And if your cover is not, restored. You would have to shell it out of your pocket. And no claim bonus is, better for this Bajaj plan, but still, taking all other things into consideration, this Max Saver plan from Max Bupa, it is better for me. Your pre-hospitalization coverage, post-hospitalization, everything is somewhat better in this. And your daycare treatments are also included. All of them have a waiting period of about 3 years, which is okay in this particular stage, because most of you would not have any, critical or very prolonged ailment as of now, like diabetes or anything like that. So 3 years is an okay time period for me. Maternity cover is something that I do not require as of now. Health checkup, as I told you earlier, this is a good option, but even if it wasn't there, so I wouldn't have, taken a very big consideration about it. And yeah, so based on that, I would be going ahead with this particular policy.
So just to sum up, for people our age, there are only two insurance products that we should consider. The first one is life insurance. The second one is health insurance. Life insurance may go for a term plan, and ideally a term plan which returns your premium. And for health insurance, go for a plan. And for health insurance, go for a plan with the required add-ons, whatever it is. And lastly, make sure that you take both these insurance products early on, because the more you delay, the premiums increase at an exponential rate. So now I would want to end by talking about consistency and opportunity building, which I believe is a very important aspect of personal finance. So for good physical health, we need to be consistent in our exercise and disciplined in our eating habits. So similarly, for a good financial health, we have to be consistent in our savings and disciplined in terms of how we manage our expenses. And things happen over consistent effort, which is uh, usually put over a period and not overnight, and they compound. So consistency is a very important concept for us in life, and especially in the world of finance. Next, I would want to talk about networking. So the more we meet new people and talk about finance, the higher is the probability that we will come across a very good financial opportunity. So usually networking gives us access to a lot of opportunities, and it is up to us how we convert these opportunities. So on that note, this is the resource pack, and I'll be sharing the deck as well. So I would ideally recommend you guys to read the entire book of Zerodha as mentioned here. And if you don't want to read the book, I've arranged the chapters according to priority, but I'll still recommend you to read the book over a month. And I've also attached a lot of links to different videos and different calculators which you can check out.